All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back to my coverage or review of the 2023 Scrabble Players Championship. I'm going to bring you guys round 4 and 5 today. I will warn you, round 5 is I think the only game that I recorded or misrecorded um, in the entire tournament, so I don't have all of my full racks, and it's kind of unfortunate. But you will see that I think the key parts of the game, or some of the key parts of the game that matter a lot, they occurred when I did have my racks written down. So, anyways, we'll jump into it. I did change. I hope there shouldn't be an audio issue anymore. I did change the view that you guys are gonna have so that it looks like I'm with you guys rather than like looking away from what I'm showing. So I think it'll look weird because most of you are used to me being on the left side of a screen rather than the right. But anyways, all that being said, I think you'll get used to it. If you don't, let me know, and I'll maybe revert back to looking away from the board. So here we are. I'm sitting at 3-0 in round 4 with a spread of plus 158. So I am playing Ori Swift, the runner-up at last year's Scrabble Players Championship. He, of course, lost to Michael Fagan in the best of 5. I think he lost 1-3, and he was definitely back for revenge this year. Ori is an extremely strong player. We faced each other 13 times before this tournament. He's won 8 of the 13 games. He's a very fierce opponent. He's very good. He knows what he's doing. And yeah, he also, I think, won his 3 games in his quad. So the way that it worked, if you are just starting to watch or if you don't remember what I said, but the first 3 rounds of a tournament like this are played with the quad. So the quad being 4 players chosen not at random, but with sort of an average total rating or an average rating of around the same. So all the quads have around the same strength on average. And you play the 3 other opponents in that quad, and then after that, the pairings become more Swiss pairings. And Swiss pairings are basically you playing people that have similar records to you. So I think after this, Ori had gone 3-0, and I was playing someone else who had vanquished their quad. And yeah, we're off to the races. I drew a very interesting rack to start. Opening rack of AHHMTX blank. So this is a good rack, and there are some options here. The top option recommended by I think Quackle was HM, just keeping things very, very tight, scoring only 14 points and keeping this AHTX blank leave, which doesn't look so good until you recognize that if you draw one vowel, and if that vowel is an A or an E or an I or an O, you will have options to potentially bingo with that. Xanthan, xanthin, xanthone, xanthine, I think are all valid. Exanthem as well is valid. So if Ori does exchange and I've drawn EEN, or sorry, just EE or EN, I get exanthem. So there's a lot of potential after HM, but it is very clunky. Like if I draw 2 consonants, it's kind of weird. Like what am I doing? And I'm also not scoring that much. That's only 14 points. You could also play HATH. That was the play I considered the most versus the play I ended up making. And this keeps the X as well. Keeping the X in the opening is not actually that great. The X is a lot stronger mid-game when you have like triples open or hotspots open, where you can really maximize the value of the X. But half looked pretty good because I will have like some options next turn. MX go pretty well together. Max and mix are words and mux. And maybe he'll play an E right here, and I'll get something with hex. It's possible. So Hath was another thing I considered, But yeah, I just kept telling myself that the X was really not that good here, and ended up playing Max for 24 points. And Ori responded with Biome, and I drew EOO, which is good. It means I drew vowels to my 3-consonant blank leave. And yeah, the options here are basically play Oho somewhere. And I played Oho for 25. I could also have played it here for 26 for 1 extra point. The problem being that I'm less likely to bingo after this one because I'm not opening the home spot, so HOME, and I'm also not opening HOMA, so for bingo starting with the letter H. Other than that, everything else is pretty equal. I mean, this also doesn't block this big scoring spot, but the X is gone, so there's not much you can really do here. You need to make A, B. So yeah, it's okay to play for 26 here, but I think I decided to sacrifice 1 point and just give myself a better position. Here Ori plays Twine and opens the board for me, and I'm able to strike with Hometown. I took a really long time in this position. I think I took like over 5 minutes, as I'm one to do with a blank. This really does screw me over time-wise to have a blank, because it really takes a long time for me to be confident that I've seen what I was going to see in the position. Just so many possibilities, and yeah, bingos with the blank are just very difficult to spot, but this is the highest scoring bingo. I thought that I was missing something and that there was some word with the W that was better, or something through the I that was better, but Hometown is fine. Ori plays Token. I have a 40-point lead, but I draw into 6 consonants and a Y, and here's where I make my first mistake of the game. Here I should play something like after Noob. The reason being, it keeps a Y. It does keep 3 consonants, but the Y will really help me. I also considered playing something like BY or TRY, and try for 31 is pretty good. It scores well, and of course, it's a really bad leave of BFNW, but if I am able to play something maybe through the E or through this E, or if he opens something else, I should be able to deal with this and sort through this. But keeping BWT like I did, I played Fernie because I really wanted to play an extra consonant and also sort of block some spots here. I really wanted to block this T. It really isn't worth doing the BTW, by the way. It's a bad leave. So yeah, shouldn't have done that. I think this is a mistake, and I should have played something more like that kept something more balanced. Like playing Noob, I actually keep try for next turn. I just never saw this play. And Weft is also pretty good. I keep buy for next turn. So I will have immediate options that should score something. It's just a much better lead. So Fernie was a mistake. Or he did play Jut. Maybe he did have an E. Maybe I slowed him down by 8 points or so. I don't really know. But this is what I'm left with, BWT, and I draw something balanced, CEIV, 2 vowels, 2 consonants, and I have a terrible rack here. And I play Civet, Civet is the biggest thing that I could do, the highest scoring play. And Ori responds with Nerdius. So now Ori has a lead, and I kept W B on my rack. And this is really bad. The best I can do is B Wigs. There's really nothing else in the position. And I take a small lead, but definitely behind here, keeping bad letters and there being all these good letters out. Ori plays Zine here. And in this position, I actually wanted to mention a concept. It's a good habit to try and practice figuring out what letters your opponent shouldn't have when they make a play. So, for example, if my opponent plays Zine here, I am pretty confident that he doesn't have a blank or an S ever, because otherwise he would be able to play Wizens with a blank or an S. So with the blank it would be 81 points, with an S it would be 84. And that's well worth it over playing for only 37. The blank is usually worth around 25, 30 points. So if he scores 81 That's a 34-point increase. So, I mean, it's reasonable that he might have a blank with this, but it's unlikely. So that could have been useful. It wasn't useful. Um, like if there was a marginal decision I could make where him being less likely than average to have an S is relevant, then it could have been important. But in this position, I really just have Pucka. That's basically the only play. And indeed, Ori did not have an S. He played Groaned. Now he's up by 59 points, and I have this rack. And this was a really difficult position because I don't have a way of going all the way down. So scoring like 50 points down here. Like I wanted to play Ferris, but Ferris wheel or Ferris Bueller, not a word. That's a proper name. So that wouldn't have worked. So I definitely told myself, is Ferris a word? And I was like, no, that can't be a word. But I could have done something like ARF here for 18, sacrificing 12 points to keep this E, because this E is really, really, really strong. You think 12 points for an E? I wouldn't even do that with an S. Well, positionally speaking, I'm going to want to bingo at some point here to get back in the game. There are some really troublesome letters out there that I also don't want to draw duplicates of. I don't want to draw two A's. I don't want to draw two L's. So it's good to keep this leave. And if we look at it, actually, the equity, so the value of keeping the E is with these four letters, IPRS, it increases the value of leave by almost 10 points on average. And that's just an average. But in this position, it's even better because there are only two E's left, and there's this big important bingo line here, and Civets is also there. I could also draw something through the through the F, I mean, sometimes. So it's possible that I should have played ARF here. The problem is I'm down 59, and I'm only going to be down 41 after ARF, but Ori gets a turn, and if I bingo down here for 70 points, I'm still probably going to be in a worse position. But keeping the E could have been extremely valuable here anyway. And FER, one of the problems with it is FERS is not a valid word. FER, the likeliest hook it takes is that E, and I just played it off. So this is the best bingo lane on the board after FER. Once a play is probably made on the O column, this might stay here, and FERE is super important. And of course, there are two S's and a T unseen, so I'm giving him a lot of scoring options most of the time with 20 in the bag. The likelihood of him having something there is pretty high. So this, I think, might have been a mistake, but 30 points, it's hard to say no to, is maybe hoping he had a bad rack, and maybe I would draw something anyway. And here, this was his rack. He played Deity. It's possible that he should have done something else given how many A's were unseen. He did have the possibility of playing OT in the same spot for 6 fewer points, but getting rid of the A that he really did not want, with 5 other A's remaining to be drawn. So I think this might have been a missed opportunity for Ori. I'm not entirely sure this was his rack. I think that's what he told me because I have it written down, but anyways. If Ori's watching this, you can let me know if you think Odie was better, if this was your rack. But yeah, Deity comes down, and I draw pretty poorly. I draw an I and two L's, like I didn't want to do. Of note, if I drew an E, or if I kept an E, I will either have Spiller or maybe nothing with LE as a draw. Or, sorry, nothing with IE as a draw. Or, anyways, it's possible I would have drawn a bingo. That's my point. Like, keeping the E might have been important here, and not giving back the scoring as well. So here I played Pill, keeping PIRS again. Just really hoping maybe draw another E or something. Maybe draw the blank. And this is Ori's real rack, and he played Oak for 21. So I was like, okay, he probably has another A, and I was looking, there were lots of A's left. Unfortunately, I didn't have an N to play Pingrass or Raspings. And here, this was a really tough position. I ended up playing Gasp, and my thinking was I'm down 72 points. I could play Gasp here, and that would set this up. I would still have the FERE possibility, and I would still have possibilities down the B column. But with scoring only 25, going down by 47, if Ori scores anything and doesn't empty the bag, it looks like a big problem in the end game for me. However, what I could have considered is that after Gasp, if he doesn't empty the bag, I will have one more turn to fish off one letter, and that gives me a better shot at drawing something in multiple spots because I'm really keeping this open, and this open. Whereas with Gasp here, yes, I could bingo with the G or starting with an A, but it's not very likely. Now what's open is civets and furs, which counteract each other. Not furs, but FERE, I mean. But this is the same column, so it could be blocked simultaneously as well. And yeah, my thinking was with Gasp, if he plays from the G, I could still bingo on the B column, and I can also bingo with civets, and that's a very high scoring spot. But it's possible that I should have played Gasp for one more point. And Ori drew AA after his play of Oak, and very quickly played Ava for 14. And at this point, I sort of was on to him. In this position, I mean, there's one in the back, but I was pretty certain that with Oak and with Ava, he had a blank. I wasn't sure with Oak, but then when he played Ava, it made it very likely to me that he was holding a blank. So in this position, the only way for me to win is to draw the blank. I'm pretty sure there's no way for me to play off one tile like a V and score enough to win. This is the only V spot as far as I'm aware. And even if I draw an L, he doesn't even need to find his only bingo of Scalado and civets, which I did see that he would have if I drew the L. For something like Surlier, he doesn't even need to see that. All he needs to do is block or play through this G and score points, and he'll have enough to win if he has the blank. So if he has the blank, I'm just dead. Even if he doesn't bingo, he's going to be able to score enough. But the funny thing is, if I draw the blank here, I will have Surveil, and I will also have Virgules through the G. But the problem for me is that after this play of Reft, if he does leave the blank in the bag, he can still play DOATS here and block. Actually, no, that doesn't block. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'd already prepared to say what I was going to say, but then I thought I was wrong. But no, if I draw the blank here, I think I win. He can't score enough through the G. Of note, if this was the unexpurgated lexicon, DAGOS would be enough for him to win after drawing the blank and reft. But the best he can do in this position, if I draw the blank, since I'm threatening viruses and cursive with civets, the best that he can do is play, I think, Goads, Goads, and that will lose the game, I think, by 1 point. So if we do the math here, score is 323, 378, and if he plays Goads, let's just assume this isn't his rack, he'll be up by 76, and Surveil will score 73 with civets, and I'm getting 4 from his rack, and I would actually win by 1. However, given that it was so early in the game, and given that it was so early in the tournament, that my winning chances might not have even been 1 in 8. I wasn't 100% sure that I was winning with the blank draw, but I also just had a bad feeling that he already had the blank based on how quickly he played his last 2 moves, not seeming to be worried about much. I should have not gone for the win here, I think, because spread, so point differential between all of the games, is the tiebreaker in Scrabble tournaments. It sometimes makes you basically throw a game. Like, this is, I think, a pure 1 in 8 win for me, but because I thought that Ori had the blank, and because most of the time this play is bad for me in terms of spread, I thought it was just probably not good. Like, if I draw an L, I am threatening Virgules and Surveil, but he'll play like Adagios, um, or he'll just bingo a Scalado. And if he bingos out, it's just like I've just scored 7 points and then he's bingoed out, so it's like 30 points worse. But in this position, I figured the L was one of the tiles for sure in the bag with Ava, so I felt like there was at least a 1 in 3 chance I was drawing an L. But all in all, what I'm trying to say is I probably shouldn't have gone for the win here. I probably should have given up and played something like Verger. The problem being, even if I draw an L after Verger, I'm not going out. So it's not actually that great for me, spread-wise, at least 1 in 3 of the time, or 1/3 of the time. So it's not a great position to be in. I would have to maybe sacrifice more points if I think the L is in the bag, and try to go out like with something more like maybe this. This doesn't even work. It's very hard to go out with an L here. So, anyways, all that being said, I probably should have played Verger anyway. A good way to calculate this sort of thing, just forgetting about maybe like trying to win this game, is you don't have to go through every single end game, but you can sort of make the inference that he probably doesn't have 2 L's with the play of Ava. And so if you're thinking you're drawing the L 1 in 3 times, you can assume that not going out is worth around maybe 30 points. If Ori goes out before me, I think that's sort of an average of 30-point gain in a lot of situations. So you can assume that I'm losing 10 points or so, or maybe a bit less, by playing Verger. But Verger is that much better than all the other plays, because if I draw an A, I get SAU and Vergers, CAUS, he can't block my outs. If I draw a D, I get Cuds, I get Duds. If I draw an O, I get SOU, I get Duos, so he can't block all of that, pretty sure. Maybe he could, actually. But I should have another place to go out with that. It seems very difficult to block. No, you can't block both. Yeah, so with the O I'm going out, with the S I'm going out, with the D I'm going out, with the A I'm going out, with the blank I'm going out. So it just adds up to be the best play. But I tried to go for a win. It's maybe a romantic play, just hoping that there's some crazy thing that happened. But of course, now he bingoes out. He plays Aldolays. Of note, he could have played Ragdolls. He missed it. That's a little bit better. But I ended up losing this game by a total of 135 points, which was a lot, because my spread was 158 after 3 games, and now after 4 games, the record is 3-1 plus 23, and that looks a lot less pretty than 3-0 plus 158. So although I had a good start, this game was very, very bad for my early chances. So let's jump into game number 2 of today, so round 5. And this game was played against Jack Peters. So Jack Peters is a very strong player. I think he's rated 18 or 1900. He doesn't play that often, but I think he won the second division in 2017. If I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but he's up and coming. He's a really strong player. Played him a few times. He came to a Montreal tournament once. And we had a very, very interesting game. And yeah, he opens with Uproot. And my opening play here was a huge, huge mistake. So here I played Thrive through the R and Uproot. And this looks like a good play until you realize that I had Thermit for 48 points, spanning across both doubles. And although this keeps a V, this is significantly better than anything else in the position. So this is a huge miss. Cost me a lot in the short term. And Jack responds with Hob, and I draw a blank. So here I play Pud, there's a lot of plays in this area that could be made, and they're all very, very close in valuation. But I decided that PUD was the right idea. I thought that the AMT blank combination was very good. It was slightly better than the APT combination. And it's a little bit harder to underlap PUD, although you can hook an S for SPUD. But if you do that, probably opening triples for me. So it looked a little bit better. That was my thought process. Here, Jack plays GEY, and I think I make another mistake here. I played Fan, and instead of Fan, I probably should have played Manat for 29 points. It's just a higher scoring option, and just keeping my options a little bit open, a little bit more open. And yeah, this looks just better. It scores a bit better, and it doesn't open the underlaps that are pretty nasty sometimes. And also, normally the play of Fat would be better. I knew that AMN blank would be a better leave in general, but given that I noticed all these ends remaining, I thought that I should play off one of my ends instead. But Quackle says that I'm overthinking things, so the engine is giving this as at least a 2-point, mistake over FAT and also over Manat for 29. I think in a do-over, I just play Fat. The other consideration I had is that this makes underlaps easier, even despite that. Like, it's still a better play. UTE, UTA are valid, and only UNI is valid. And of course, you can put an S on either. But yeah, these are the little things. Jack plays EAU, and I draw very well, and I'm able to play Animus for 87 points. My highest scoring bingo. Jack responds with Toady, and in this position, I had a couple of options. Clear option I saw was BERME, and I made that play relatively quickly, but I realized that it's possible that I shouldn't have done this, even though it's so many points. There's something to be said about getting rid of my J and playing Jube. I do have a lead by playing BERME. I'm opening an S hook that I don't have, and if Jack makes a clever play like the one he did, that could also serve to benefit having an S even more than it normally would. So by playing Jube, I'm leaving my options open. I'm keeping the M for this big spot. There are no B's or M's to be drawn, so this spot is pretty much all mine. And if I draw something that's a little bit more defensive, I might play it next turn, or I would play it anyway, already having gotten rid of my J. So Berm does perform best, according to the engine, but because of what Jack can do now, it's possible that I had made a small mistake in this situation. Jack plays TAU, which is, like I said, a clever play, because it sort of inhibits plays this triple and thereby protects the S hook on Berm. You would really have to play something over here for it to be worth your while to block the spot. But luckily I drew an S, and I was able to just block the spot myself with Jins, and now things are pretty closed down on this board. And I have a nice lead of 83, but Jack opens the board with Flange, and now I'm up 53, and here's where I don't have all of my racks. Unfortunately, I really wanted to analyze this position here. I know that I didn't have an R, I don't think. Maybe I did. I think I had an L, but I just don't know exactly what I had. And I ended up playing VAW here, despite it being like better for me to play Wave. I remember just being like, well, if I play VAW, where is he gonna go? Really, the only place that he can bingo now or score is with this F, and sure, you can score points, but I should be able to clamp down on the board if you score using the F, and it's very unlikely that a bingo would come down. So I sort of regretted this play because I played it, and then he actually bingoed with foliaged. and I had, I think, another W. Yeah, VWWEELN maybe? It was something like that. But he played Foliaged, and I ended up feeling like I had to play Wheel. And I thought this play was really bad for me because I thought that WEELS was valid. Um, but I had another L and I needed to get rid of this one. But wheel is actually an adjective and it means well. So this was a huge mistake on my part to assume that it took an S, and it could have cost me dearly if I played an S and drew an S, or if I failed to challenge him, or in this case, after he plays LO, which seemed very odd to me after a long thought, um, I sort of just thought it was still possible to play with wheels. But because he spent so long to play LO, I sort of started having doubts, or at least thinking that maybe he was not sure enough that wheel took an S to play it. So I started to think that maybe it wasn't a thing, but that he would still try it if he needed to. So I played Zine here. It's funny, so did Ori last game, but there's also not much to be talked about because I don't have my leaves. He plays Ire, and in this position, I think I should have played the top static option of Aioli, even though it opens a possible lane here. I have the last E, so I'm not super worried about anything under here. What I'm most worried about is plays through this I after Aioli, and if I don't play Aioli and play Aril, which was the highest scoring option I saw, I thought that I was leaving myself open to lose to stuff like Sicko or something high scoring with wheels. But all in all, this play is okay, given that wheels is not actually valid. But that spot really dictated a ton of my thought process, and it could have cost me a lot more dearly than it did. So here, Jack plays cars, so I know he has the last S. And I'm almost certain with this play that he does not have the Q. This Q is still lurking. And I'm up 24 points, but if I get stuck with this Q, I'm in huge trouble. Now, right now, I have two spots for the Q. There's QI here. If I keep my eye, I can even play QI. And there's QUIT here that I have through this U. However, I also have the X, and I was really worried about plays like Sicko. So I also considered playing something like Tix, but the problem with that is if I draw the Q, I am doomed. There is no spot left for the Q except for this one, which he will block swiftly, and I'll be in big trouble. So I thought that I needed to score points and potentially avoid the Q, except I saw this option of Tix for 35, which if he does not address this QI spot, I'm going to be scoring 31 points and probably outrunning anything he has. So I thought that this was a clever option to save me if I drew the Q. He would surely block the Q and I would play QI here. And I was trying to calculate if that was going to be enough. Like if he saved Sick, for example, maybe I actually block that and stick myself with the Q and it's still good enough. And it started to get really tense. I started to run out of time, but I thought this had to be my only good option in the position. And I draw QK. So there was a 50% chance that Jack would draw the Q after cars. He did not. And then I drew QK, which to me seemed really disastrous. But I started calculating, and it seemed that I was going to get away with this game. I didn't see a better option that he had other than playing Coates. Dacoits wasn't going to be enough. He's down 59. This brings him down 20. I was going to play QI. I would be up 31, and he would have to score 13 points with this A, which he can't do. He can only score 11. So I would win by 2, I think, in that iteration. Let's calculate that again. 20 31-20. Yeah. So Dacoits loses the game by 2 points. And he chose, and Coates scores 33, so he's down 26. So I'm up 37. And then he, after QI, and then he plays DA, which scores 3 more points than Za, so that's 3 points worse. So Coates didn't seem to be. Oh yeah, no, there's Ad and Dejins. So this also I think loses by 2. So he plays for 33, he's down 26, he's down 37, then he plays for 4, 5, 13, 17, and he gets 18. So yeah, again, that loses by 2, just barely. And his play that he made of Coati for 30 is 1 point worse, because instead of scoring 3 extra for his S, he ends up, after QI, scoring 2 extra. Ending the game with sad. What a testament to the game. This was a pretty sad game, at least for me. Probably Jack feels the same way about his play, but I don't know what he had. And I won by 3 points. So a very, very tough game. I made a huge mistake in the opening, and I didn't play also well throughout the rest of the game. I definitely made at least one more mistake. I don't know what it was, though. So after round 5, I come up with the squeaker, and my spread is now 26. I'm up 4 games to 1, but I have absolutely no point spread. And yeah, spread is important. So we'll see what happens in the next games. But this was definitely 2 not so great games, but at least I won one of them. And that'll do it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll bring you guys round 6 and maybe also round 7 next time. So goodbye, and I hope you enjoyed. All right, just a little addendum here. This was round 4's game against Ori. Forgot to show you guys the boards, and that was first game, and this was the second game against Jack. So you can see that I played on 2 different boards. So this is the 3rd board that I played on in the tournament. Yay for different sets, different tiles, different board styles. And maybe I'll tally up how many different boards I played on by the end of this tournament. But we have the heart blanks with this set, with this other set. We had the NASPA, yeah, the NASPA tiles. All right, see you guys next time.